Hello, homeschool moms, and welcome to another new episode of the Homeschool Well Podcast with Kim and Jenny.
Hello.
This is March of 2026, and we are focusing on evaluations for your homeschool kiddos. If you haven't listened to those episodes yet, the first week in March, we did an overview about evaluation and how powerful it is. And the second week, we talked about portfolio reviews. And this week, we're talking about testing. So we're doing more formal test talk today.
Get excited. Woohoo!
It can feel heavy for some people, but don't worry. We are here to bring some healing to that scary, scary thought of formal testing because, Mom, those results are so empowering. And the whole experience is super empowering. So we're here to help you get over the intimidation of achievement testing. You might find yourself worrying, what if your child is behind? What if you see those scores and you don't understand what any of it means? Or what if you do understand what it means and you consider it a reflection on yourself in a negative way? That's
Right.
not good, right?
Yes.
Also, when you're going through formal testing, it's kind of like legal talk, some of it. Some of the terms can be very overwhelming. And we are here to simplify that. We've been doing achievement tests for years with our own kids, with kids in the homeschool community, and as teachers in our classroom. And we just want you to know that testing like this shouldn't feel like a judgment. It should be gone into with the mindset that you are getting clarity.
And now I think homeschool testing has become a little more to the forefront because there's so many states now who are offering these different educational models.
And the scholarship where they are requiring the testing. They're not looking at the scores in the state of Florida, just so you know that. But
Not
they
at
are
this
requiring,
time.
not at this time, but they are
Right.
requiring the testing for accountability purposes for the evaluation, at least in the state of Florida.
Yeah. So we thought this would be a good time to kind of bring this to the forefront and dispel some of these scary myths or all
Yeah,
the things about
for sure.
testing.
Yeah, especially like she said, if you're in a state where you have to get it done and it just feels like this monster in the closet, right? Yeeks.
Yeah. It can feel terrible.
And we have a scripture to empower us with this mindset.
We do. And when I first got my kids tested, and I remember some years, it was kind of not so great. Some of their things, they would come back, right? They had holes or gaps where everyone worries about all the time here and there. And so I think this is where homeschool moms we just beat ourselves up and say, oh my gosh, I'm failing my kid. And we go down this complete dark hole. We wanted to just start out with this verse, 2 Corinthians 10:5. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. And I remember I did a TikTok about this like a long time ago, actually, that God does not think I'm a loser. He does not think I'm a terrible homeschool mom. That's all lies from the enemy. And that is where we need to take these thoughts captive, and we need to get our mind right with testing. It does not mean you're a failure. It gives you information, and that's what we want to talk about today.
I love the make it obedient to Christ and his life-giving thoughts.
Yes.
Let's get into the meat of it and really explain the types of tests that are out there. The first type we're going to focus on are called norm reference tests. These type of tests compare your child's results to other students nationwide. They're helpful for annual homeschool evaluations, documentation, and identifying learning gaps. They are a snapshot of what your child did on a certain day. They usually take a couple of hours, maybe, depending on the age of your child, but it is a snapshot of how they did in that blip of time. They're not your child's complete identity.
So if you went to public school, these are the scary, big, scary tests you had to take at the end of the year. Remember those? And they weren't scary when we were younger, but they are now for whatever reason in public school. They are like all this crazy high stakes testing.
It was Common Core, SAT, ACT. When we started as teachers, Jenny, I think was when it all got a little crazy with the
Yeah.
FCAT in the state of Florida. Because I remember I was teaching with a multi-age team. They were so gracious. They let my kids with special needs go into their classrooms and do all their fun project-based learning activities. And they were heartbroken when they couldn't do that anymore because they didn't have time because of all of the test accountability that came up. And so this was in the later 1990s. And since that time, I think it's just gone wild, right?
Yeah, I don't know about you, but growing up, the Iowa Test of Basic Skills that we took at the end of the year, where we all took this norm reference test, and then our parents got these results back saying where we were compared to our peers this time of year. And then testing became something entirely different and crazy over the past 20 or 30 years. But for us, we offer two types of tests like this. We offer the KTEA 3 and we offer Exact Path. And these are both norm reference tests. It gives you information about how your child is doing in certain subtests compared to other students at their age.
The subtests are just related to math and language arts for these tests that we give.
The second type of test is a type of diagnostic test. So just like when you go to the doctor and they run a bunch of tests on you to find out where your levels are, this is how it is in education too. And so these are things your child has mastered and things that they might have missing skills in. This is where you can find gaps in their education. Then once you have these results is where should your instruction begin. So one of the diagnostic tests I've done over time is called like a core phonics survey. And I give the kids a bunch of different sounds to see which ones they know and don't know. And then I know exactly where I need to begin in reading instruction. So that's just an example of what those are.
I love this visual. Think of these as a GPS for learning, right? So you want to know where the blue dot, where your kid is, right?
That's right. And where they need to go.
Yeah, it's not necessarily comparing them to other kids their age, but it's giving you all of their skill sets, their strengths, and it's perfect for driving your daily curriculum.
Knowing where to start and where to go. Perfect.
And then the third kind are more skill-based and informal assessments. They might include ongoing fun activities that are part of your lesson plans that you can use to kind of gauge how the curriculum is working. So like an oral reading fluency, that basically is just you're timing the kid to see how fast that they can read 50-word paragraph, or, and every time you do it, it's the same words on the page until they master it, and then you can move on to the next one. And then you can compare over time how their fluency is developing. Writing samples, so very informally, you can just compare. Maybe you have some journal entries over time, or dictation if you do writing dictations. The way I used this in the past week even was with my tutoring, and we keep a little journal, and every time we meet we write the date and their name and the location and just some different facts. But really I'm just looking to see, because these are elementary kids, how they are writing. The student wrote the date. I was like, wow, I want to look back at the first time we met and compare what it looked like when you wrote the date the first time. And so we were able to go back to the first time he wrote the date when we were together and this time, and it's been probably 3 months, which is a nice number to look at every 2 or 3 months. And you can just see right there the progress. Like, it's amazing, and speak to it and celebrate it. And like, wow, look, like you didn't even know the dashes were supposed to be there. And now you can do it all by yourself.
That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah, those are really great informal ways. And you're just keeping those writings in a journal. Another one for math fact fluency. I had so much fun with the kids in my classroom and my personal children doing something called the Mad Math Minute. And it was literally that, 1 minute of math facts. And you see how many you can do on this page. They have the same page every time until they master it. And then they go to the next page. Now, for my students, they couldn't handle a whole page of work. So I did like 10 problems. It was like this little strip of paper or whatever, 20 problems. You can base that content on the age and ability level of your children. So you're sitting around the table, with your first grader, your 8th grader, and your 12th grader. They're not all going to have the same, worksheet of math facts in front of them, right? But they do all have 1 minute in time. And then they go back and they compare how they did with the last entry of the Mad Math Minute. Those are super fun.
That.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they get
I did
excited to do
those in
that.
my class too.
Yeah, and you can do it with anything, and you
Hmm.
can also adjust the time. When I first started doing it, I think I had to do it in like 3 minutes,
Hmm.
because it's a learning curve for them to and depending on
Hmm.
the student, right? They might have test anxiety or something, even in this situation, timing
Right.
anxiety. So you can just start with 3 minutes and then work your way down to 1 minute. You might not ever get there, but you can ask them in the next sessions, hey, do you want to try to see how many you can do in 2 minutes instead of three, or 1.5 minute? You could take off a certain amount of seconds or whatever. And you always note all that information on the little sheet, the date, how much time you gave them to do it, how much time they took to do it. That's also a very good math skill that you're teaching them, because they're paying attention to a timer, right? If they did less than 2 minutes, they're going to write on the paper that they did it in maybe 1 minute and 27 seconds or whatever. So that's a whole math skill in itself, trying to figure that out and then figure out how to write that. But you're taking good notes on those little quizzes, and you can see how this would translate to any subject area also. Little time tests in reading, in math, and any other subject area. And the last point for skills-based and informal assessments would be those portfolio reviews, and just keeping all the content that they work on and looking back at it and just discussing what they learned from it. What were their takeaways? Science experiments from the whole year, and going back and looking at the content in August compared to what they've done in January. These
Hmm.
measure real performance, real growth, tangible work that your students do on a daily basis. And this is going to give your kids real confidence and be able to show them tracking of their growth to independence in certain areas,
Yeah.
right?
This is where you can definitely, like you said, flip back, a month or two ago and look at where they were then in any subject, whatever they're
Yeah.
doing, writing or whatever, and then flip forward.
All of this stuff matters more than just numbers. You know what I also want to speak to on this is it doesn't matter the ability level of your kid. I also tutor students who have fine motor skills, and sometimes their parents have to do hand over hand to help them write. Like they don't know how to write an H, so they're literally writing it with them, right? Or maybe they're learning cursive and you have your hand over your kid's hand and you're moving it together. And then they slowly learn to do it without your hand there. So, what you're doing on the paper is you're taking notes to that fact. So, you can just use like the letters HOH, hand over hand. And
Mm-hmm.
then when they do it by themselves, you can put self. You kind of need like a key. So, when you go back, you can say, oh, wow, this H looks perfect because we did it hand over hand. And the ones that they started doing it by themselves, it was still growth, but it was a little messy. And then maybe at the end of the year, it says self, and it's super neat. Oh, wow, look at all the growth you made. You used to have my hand on your hand, and then you tried to do it by yourself, and it was messy, but now you can do it all by yourself, and it's super neat. Yay, I see that,
That's
right?
a really good point. It does translate into everything you do with your kid.
Yeah, and every ability level.
Right.
You can meet your child wherever they're at with that.
That's great. So those are just an overview of some of the types of tests, the norm reference, the diagnostic, and then just skill-based and informal assessments. We want to leave you today with some helpful tips on how to use testing wisely in your homeschool. One of the things is to know the purpose before you test. What do you want to find out? Whatever you want to find out, then you have to choose the test that goes with that. Some tests will not give you information that you're looking for, so you have to know what you need in order to know what you want to gain.
It's like you're
So
working backwards from the goal. So you
that's
discover
right.
the goal, and then you work backwards to figure out how to meet the goal and how to track yourself through to the
That's
goal.
right. Sometimes you need to use more than one assessment, and throughout the year, you can use more than one assessment. You don't want to go testing happy. Again, we're not in public school like they are, it seems like now, but different things test for different reasons. And so sometimes you need different ones throughout the year.
And you want to see if the skill that your kid learned one way translates and they can apply it in a different way.
That's a good point. For an example, I'm thinking about my core phonics survey that I mentioned earlier. If I give that to a kid at the beginning of the year, I know what sounds they know which ones I need to teach them. And then maybe if we have to do a norm reference test at the end of the year, I'm able to see, are they able to apply that on, say, the KTEA or exact path to be able to read a short passage? So absolutely. Another helpful tip is that you need to be able to separate this data from your identity, like we talked about at the beginning, from your identity and the kid's identity. And I think we always think, and I thought about this when my kids were in high school, it's ridiculous to think that my child is going to score well on every subject area and every aspect of his life. People don't do that. I'm not good at mechanics and engineering and all of
Right.
these different things. I'm good at the things that I'm good at. And so to think that our kids have to be performing successfully and very high on all of these different subject areas is not reality, because
Yeah.
as humans and adults, we're not like that either. We're good at certain things. Some people are good at math, some people are good at writing. And so you have to keep these things in mind and be able to separate them from your identity as a teacher and your child's identity as a learner.
Great point.
Lastly, it's helpful to get help interpreting results. If you're not sure what this means when you get test results back, it's helpful to get someone who can help you do that. And that is where we come in. That is something that we do.
Even if you do know how to interpret the results, but you don't know where to go with them, we can help you with that. We just met with a mom yesterday who's in education, and she had the test results from the KTEA, but she wanted our opinion about how she could apply those to her child's learning. And just getting a third party's advice, their viewpoint, their
Perspective, yeah.
ideas, yeah, their perspective. They're going to have ideas that you maybe have never heard of. And that's what happened yesterday.
Hmm.
We had all these ideas that she had never heard of. She had ideas that we had never heard of either. But,
Hmm.
that's why we're supposed to come together and help each other, because you see these numbers and you don't know where to go with them, and other people can help you with that.
Yeah. And even curriculum wise, or maybe there's another test that you could do next that's more informal that would give you a little more information and dive a little deeper on the results that you just got. There's so many different things you can do with this information and figure out where to go next.
So get help, and that is where the Homeschool Well comes in.
We offer two types of norm reference tests. Like I said before, we offer the KTEA 3 testing, which is face-to-face virtually, where we are testing your child, a one-on-one situation. And then also we have the exact path test, and we're excited because this is new. This is a parent proctored test where you just sign up online and you're able to give the test online to your child yourself, and it gives you all of this information back. And so it's very helpful as well. And like we mentioned before, we also help you interpret scores or tell you what things mean or what to do next. We can give you growth tracking tools or tools to monitor progress informally throughout the year if you want to do something that way. And we can also give you lots of different activities of what to do next once you find out your child might be really good in these areas but a little weaker in these areas. We can give you specific types of activities for different skills like fluency or comprehension or different types of things. We share these in our community because we have both worked in education for a while and know where to find all the resources. We have monthly workshops with different subject areas, and then we have times where we meet with our members with whatever they want to meet about. It's Kim and I, 2-on-1. We meet you in a private room or on a Google Meet. This is where you have an opportunity to ask questions about testing, about what to do next with your results, and just find out all the information you need.
And we have a whole bank of pre-recorded workshops, some for your kids, like Jenny's handwriting class. I have a jump rope class. We also have teacher training, so homeschool mama teacher training workshops. There's one on behavior, one on how to organize your records, all kinds of stuff inside our community
On demand.
and on demand.
That's right.
We do invite you to take a look at all of our services. You can find that at the homeschoolwell.com/services. And in closing, just as an encouragement about these formal tests, remember, it is not about proving, it's about guiding. It's not about comparison, it's about clarity. And with us, you don't have to navigate testing, evaluation, and assessment alone. We help you measure what matters and help you grow with confidence. So take a look at what we offer. Again, it's at the homeschoolwell.com/services. We hope to see you soon. And in the meantime, come back next week for another new episode of the Homeschool Well Podcast.
Thanks for joining us today. Bye.
Bye-bye.